Welcome back to Vox in a Box, the podcast that puts the voice in comics. I'm your host, Michael Corley. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we are covering Classic X-Men, number 81. In this 81st episode of Vox in a Box, it is titled Sanction. We open with an amusement park. Nothing but good things at an amusement park, right? Wrong. We have Mystique, current leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, shapeshifter, blue-skinned, determined. And behind her comes Wolverine. Wolverine, with his claws extended, he is going to slice Mystique into ribbons. Wolverine is fast. His first blow draws blood from her side. Her kick to his face would have killed a normal man. But Wolverine is not a normal man. He has adamantium bones and healing factor. He extends his claws once more. He's going to kill her. She dodges just in time. And a small but powerful blade extends from under her hand. She slices Wolverine's neck. And she says that even his healing factor won't save him in time from bleeding to death from a slashed throat. Even those wonderful adamantium bones will not protect his neck. Even though that nowadays, Wolverine survives having his neck slashed all the time. Back then, Wolverine's healing factor was not quite so powerful. Wolverine bleeds to death. We see Kitty Pryde phasing out of the ground. She sees Wolverine on the ground. She doesn't understand why he's unconscious. There isn't a mark on him. When suddenly, she's stabbed by Wolverine. What's going on here? This is, of course, Mystique. Mystique, disguised as Wolverine, wearing a glove that gives her temporary claws. Behind her, she hears, "Murderer!" and an explosion flings Mystique forward. That explosion came from the power of the fists of Peter Rasputin. Colossus, his nearly invulnerable armored form, is advancing on her, and he is going to kill Mystique for murdering Kitty Pryde. Mystique pulls one of the skulls from her belt. We don't talk about that a whole lot. Mystique's belt is actually a row of skulls. Turns out they do some interesting things. She throws one at Peter Rasputin's face. It is a flash bomb so hot, so intense, it melts his armored skin. He leans forward in agony, even as an optic blast strikes her from behind. She thinks to herself that it nearly snapped her in two. If Cyclops had let loose a full-force optic blast, it would have cut her in half. She makes her way to the funhouse. Remember, this is at an amusement park, to try and get away before he can fire again. Inside the funhouse, both Cyclops and Colossus follow. Cyclops reacts quickly, firing his optic blast to strike down Mystique. But it's an illusion. The mirror funhouse has fooled Cyclops, and as we've seen in the past, his optic blasts bounce off solid reflective objects like, say, funhouse mirrors. She has specially targeted this place to amplify his optic blasts 100-fold. They bounce back and cut Colossus in half. Cyclops is, of course, so distraught at this, he doesn't notice with the funhouse mirrors that she snuck up behind him with a garrote wire. She cuts open Cyclops' throat. He is dead. Now she shifts into a long, purple, specially made combat suit. She knows what's coming next. It is Storm. She sweeps her up into the air with a hurricane, fires electrical blasts that will incinerate Mystique. But this special costume she has worn has been made to absorb her electrical fire, and she sends it back at Storm. Storm easily dodges her, but her target was not Storm, but a tanker, a gasoline tanker behind Storm. As we've seen before, Storm may be able to fire amazingly powerful blasts, but she is not immune to the elements. The explosion incinerates Storm, but the power of the explosion sends Mystique falling backwards through a big top tent. The force of the blast is going to send her falling to her death, but Mystique is a master acrobat. Kind of like a certain X-Men that we know. She uses her incredible abilities to swing herself to safety. But even as she's grabbing hold of the last ring, it is Rogue using her incredible strength to rip open the wooden post at the center of the tent. Now remember, Mystique raised Rogue as a daughter. She doesn't want to fight Rogue. But she pulls out her gun and she incinerates Rogue. Mystique is torn with this horrible choice that she's made, and it gives her a moment of distraction. That's enough for Nightcrawler to grab her and teleport her again and again and again. As we know, this is very difficult on the passenger, as it is for Nightcrawler. He's fully expecting her to be helpless at the end of these multiple teleports. But much to his surprise, Mystique is completely unharmed by the multiple teleports. It's almost as if there's something about her that is resistant to these teleportations. She pulls out a knife to slit his throat and hesitates. She hesitates. Why would Mystique hesitate to kill Nightcrawler? He doesn't. With a single punch, he knocks Mystique unconscious. But is Mystique dead? No, we find her recovering in a very posh apartment. And it is Destiny, her longtime friend, who can see into the future, is taking care of her. She has a bandage over her head, clearly from that very strong punch from Nightcrawler. But now you're probably figuring out that all of the X-Men are not dead. No, coming into the room is Arcade. Arcade, longtime foe of the X-Men, who has his own personal murder world. Well, he will murder anyone for the low, low price of $1 million. And despite all of his many incredible electronic achievements in Murder World, the most impressive are his incredibly lifelike robots. Yes, the X-Men fighting Mystique were nothing more than robots using abilities to simulate the X-Men's powers. This was Mystique's version of a training room, of the Danger Room. She is very impressed with his performance, with all of the robots. They acted just like the real X-Men would. She asks him if he can whip up some more robots to train all of the other Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And he says yes, he'll be happy to. But on one condition. Just like with hers, one of the robots will not be programmed to subdue them. One of the robots will randomly try to kill the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And they won't know which one. As he's walking out, she asks, "Which one was it for me?" And he says, "Isn't it obvious? It was Rogue." We cut to a dance center where we see Stevie Hunter. That is the dance instructor of Kitty Pryde. And Kitty wants to talk to her about Storm, that she's gone through so many changes recently. And in fact, we see Storm coming to pick up Kitty Pryde with her long white mohawk and her tight black leather clothing. Kitty doesn't even want to talk to Storm, and Stevie is telling Storm, just, hang in there. She'll get used to it. It's just very hard for kids to take change from the people that they love. Speaking of love, they have a goodbye. Not on Earth, but on orbit on the Starjammer's ship. Charles Xavier is saying goodbye to his love, Lilandra. She must go back with the Starjammers and try to free her empire from the clutches of her evil sister, Deathbird. And we get a final farewell also with Corsair and his two sons, Alex and Scott Summers. But now we cut to New York City, to the Lincoln Center, where the Royal Ballet is putting on a show. Peter Rasputin, that is Colossus, and Kitty Pryde are going, as well as Nightcrawler and his longtime girlfriend, Amanda Sefton. While Nightcrawler, wearing his traditional comic book disguise, that is a trench coat and a fedora. Remember, if you're in a comic book, even if you're blue and furry, if you are wearing a trench coat and fedora, no one will notice. He's talking to Amanda. Now, Amanda grew up with Kurt. They were childhood friends, but he didn't know her when she was grown. And later they reconnected and realized that they had this childhood connection. And that's why he's talking to her about Mystique. He wonders, is Mystique his mother? She looks like him. She has mutant powers like him. And once he asked her if there was a connection, and she told him to ask Amanda Sefton's mother. Now, I should point out, the reason that Kitty and Colossus weren't with them, they dropped off Amanda and Nightcrawler. So that's why they were separated. And now they have to walk extra. Of course, finding a parking spot in New York is never easy, not even for superheroes. But Kitty and Colossus don't mind. They enjoy the time walking together when suddenly there's an explosion high on top of a building. Colossus can hear people screaming for help, screaming in pain. He tells Kitty to run and call for ambulance, call for a fire department. As Colossus, he can help. Using his armored form, he turns into Colossus. He heads for the building. He has nothing to fear from a simple fire. But when he gets to the top, he finds there's no one in trouble. There's not even a fire. The only person there is the Blob. Do you remember the Blob? The Blob is a big, fat guy, thus being called the Blob. However, not just simply being fat. The Blob is incredibly strong, and even more important, he is almost impossible to move if he doesn't want to be. As Colossus tries to punch him, he is, after all, one of the members of Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, tells him, in fact, that this is a trap. The Blob just catches Peter Rasputin's fist and throws him out of the building. He is caught in the air by a bird made of fire. This is not Phoenix, however. This is by the Brotherhood of Evil Mutant Pyro. Now, Pyro cannot create fire, but as long as he has even the tiniest spark of flame, he can control it and make it do whatever he wishes. This Firebird has enough substance to hold Colossus, but not enough that he can punch it. So it's just holding him up in the air, and he's growing hotter and hotter. And as he's wondered a few times before, if he gets hot enough in his armored form, will he melt? And what would happen to him if in this state he reverted back to his human form? Suddenly, the bird drops him. He is white hot from the fire. He falls to the ground, wondering why. He's in excruciating pain from the searing hot blast. And he realizes that he's surrounded by 5 trucks, each one filled with liquid nitrogen. Above, the mutant known as Avalanche, again, member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, uses his control over the earth to make all of the trucks fall at Colossus simultaneously. And superheated Colossus is doused in super cold liquid. We hear a "Arrgh!" Kitty, who's been coming back to see if he's all right, simply says, "Peter." Phasing through wall after wall to get to him quickly, she screams, "Peter!" In the last panel, we see Colossus. He has been frozen, transmuted, changed into stone. There can be no way that he has survived. And that ends Classic X-Men number 81. I'm sure you know that Colossus is dead, right? Right? Maybe not. We shall see. If you're enjoying this storyline, we're going to have some fun with the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Go ahead and let me know about it. Email me, michael@voxboxcomics.com. You have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon.